What if I told you that you could dramatically shift the trajectory of someone's life just with a simple mindset shift? What if I told you that that was something that you could personally do for yourself? In today's video, I'm going to talk about a little psychological phenomenon that's known to help you get better results, and I'm going to use some examples that I've seen in real life about how this works, and then I'm also going to give you some recommendations to achieve that. But before we get into the topic, please make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel so you get brand new videos when they come out. If you're on Instagram or any other platforms, use the power of those tools to share with your friends, all that good stuff. So with all that being said, we're going to talk about something called the Pygmalion Effect. Before I describe exactly what the Pygmalion Effect is, I'm going to talk about a story that illustrates the power of it, and then you'll pretty much figure out what it is by me telling this story, right? So I forget the exact teacher or the exact school, but there was a teacher. She was working in an inner city school. She was working with kids who were not doing well in their studies at all, kids who were failing, kids who were labeled all sorts of behavioral damage, learning disabilities, all the different kind of labels that you could put to make these kids seem like they would have no future, that they would have no educational success. This teacher, instead of trying to talk down to the students, instead of trying to make them feel dumb or mediocre, she actually challenged them to start reading and doing material way above their grade level. These were kids who were previously labeled failures and who all other teachers they had been with said that they didn't have the desire to learn, etc., etc. They were destined to fail. This teacher in an inner city school with no resources, just based on the way that she treated those students, had those students reading several grade levels above, had them getting A's and B's, had them succeeding, had them hungry to learn. How is this possible when, if you look at those circumstances, this is not what's supposed to happen? Well, this is where the idea of the Pygmalion Effect comes in. So the Pygmalion Effect is basically a really fancy way, a psychologically observed way of saying that when you have higher expectations, or that when you set higher expectations for other people, they tend to rise to them, right? So for a lot of people, we look at our situations that we're in, we look at our circumstances, and instead of shifting our expectations upward so that we can actually reach those goals, we hedge in a lot of different ways. We let our circumstances, our mindset, our limiting beliefs, our perceptions of the world get in the way. And then we wonder why we stay stuck in this cycle when we never actually raise our expectations so that we can meet them. And the simple reason in your life personally why you don't raise yourself or have high expectations for you to raise your standards towards is because you don't want to have that feeling of doing everything right, actually trying, actually putting yourself out there and failing, right? So it's kind of like, I kind of had this analogy of, kind of being closed off to the world. And when you're open to the world, when you set high expectations for yourself, you're more vulnerable and susceptible, to attack, right? So if you walk up to somebody, you're kind of guarded and closed off, maybe they won't attack you. But if you walk up to them vulnerable and kind of bare-chested, this is when you're most exposed, right? So this is a metaphor that I use for people in the way that they behave with the world. They're closed off to the world. They don't set higher expectations because they don't want to get knocked down from that huge pedestal. But until you start to raise your expectations, you're going to be in the same place. So what are some of the things that you can actually do to kick in this Pygmalion Effect to increase your expectations for yourself and then put yourself in a position where you can actually meet those expectations? One of the things that was most valuable for me when I was trying to figure out how to level up, when I was trying to build my writing career, when I was trying to be successful, when I was trying to make more money, do whatever, right? I had examples around me that helped me set high expectations, and I had like a barrier around my mind to keep the kind of low or mediocre expectations of other people from entering into my mind, right? Because when you're in the real world, your expectations are set to what you see around you. And I'm not even necessarily putting good or bad labels on it, but if your expectations are that of your peers who are working a 9-to-5 job maybe they don't like, where people are underwhelmed with their prospects for the most part, where going above and beyond kind of leads to that idea of the tall poppy getting cut down and nobody wants to put themselves out there. If that's what your standard default expectations are everywhere around you, of course, you're not going to be in a position where you want to set high expectations because you don't see that sort of stuff, right? So for me, I wanted to make sure that I was switching around my examples so that I could create an environment where instead of just a small handful of people around me having high expectations, all the examples around me would be of people who had high expectations, right? So this is when I was brainwashing myself. This is when I was reading all the books I can, reading stories of successful people, hunting them out online, looking at writers who were where I wanted to be in life and going through their backstories to realize that they were just at a beginning point like me. So I just hammered the idea in that it was okay to have high expectations for my life and that I could counteract all the negative programming in society that taught me to have low expectations. So this is the value. This is pretty much the only value in content like this, is to create a mental environment for you to start having those higher expectations. And once you get a little bit of momentum going, here's what you can do next. So the way to continually create higher and higher expectations without going too far beyond your imagination is kind of this idea of getting a little bit to your edge, and then once you go through and make it through a certain arc to a certain edge, that's really the lesson that's going to teach you how limiting your old beliefs were, so that you can continue to create higher and higher paradigms, right? So when I was writing 5 years ago, the idea of doing what I'm doing now seemed unfathomable, improbable, right? So I didn't just start writing and say, oh, hey, my expectations coming out of the gate are millions of readers a year, 3 published books, my own business. No, my expectations were, hey, maybe I could set an expectation higher than my current standard, which is that instead of just working at my job, I could try to do something alternative. I could try a different path. I could try to be more creative. So at first my examples were towards that end. I just looked at people who were getting their work out there. I didn't necessarily care about having world dominating fame, right? So then I go through that arc, right? I make more money than I'm accustomed to making. I have more influence than I'm accustomed to having. I have a lifestyle and a mindset and an environment that's much higher than I used to expect. So now, every time I go up to a new level, I think about the first arcs I went through and realize how limited my beliefs were then. This now gives me the permission when I go to a new level to have even higher expectations, because I remember how limited my expectations were in the first place, right? So this is that process of leveling up. Brainwash yourself. Find examples of people doing what you want to do. Make that your reality. Take those initial steps to go wherever you want to go. And the initial steps to doing whatever you want to do are simple. You just have to do it for the first day, and then you keep on doing it over and over again until your expectations raise. So I'm just trying to give you different angles on how to do that. And then an interesting thing can happen to you once you start to build higher expectations for yourself, right? You start leveling up. You have more confidence, more self-esteem in what you're doing, and that just creates sort of an aura, sort of a vibe where people see the expectations that you're setting for yourself. So then when they're around you, they want to level up and adapt to your environment, right? So if you're a hard worker and you're out there getting results, people around you aren't going to want to feel like they want to be slackers, right? They're going to want to meet your level, right? I said right a bunch of times there, but keep going. A lot of people in my life, when I had low expectations for myself, they had low expectations of me. I was doing all the wrong things and not being successful, so nobody's expected me to be successful, right? But now that my expectations for myself are so high, people come to me and they ask me for advice. When they want to level up on something, or they want to do something with their business, or they want to do something creative, they ask me, because I'm like a refuge for them. Because in the real world, when they talk about those things to other people, the other people don't have the same level of expectations, so they have the tendency to kind of poo-poo on their ideas a little bit. But for me, people know that I'm going to be receptive to them having high standards for themselves, and I'm actually going to tell them what to do or tell them how to get it because I'm reverberating that energy. So that's how the whole process works. You create higher expectations for yourself, you level up, you break new paradigms in your mind. It gives you a new radiance, it gives you a new vibe, it infects other people. They want to level up too, and if we all were to do this together at the same time, which we won't, but it would be great if we did, it would create this self-fulfilling upward spiral that would basically cure society. Okay, that's the video for today. Make sure to check out my book, Real Help and Honest Guide to Self-Improvement, if you haven't already. Check out the book. It's really going to help you reach a higher level and set expectations that you did not think were possible. Make sure to check that out. Whatever platform you are on, make sure to share with your friends on the platform. Thanks for the love. Thanks for watching the video. Thanks for making it to the end. I will see you on the next video.